Very warm welcome in our lesson regarding English poetry at Government. This is Guman Singh Gehlot, Assistant Professor English. Today we shall take the poem The Stolen Boat, written by William Wordsworth, and this is in graduation third year course for English literature students at J. Narayan Vyas University, Jodhpur. And this poem, as the title you can see here, The Stolen Boat by William Wordsworth, is an excerpt from the longer poem, The Prelude, from its 1850 edition. And this poem, The Prelude, was intended to be a long epic poem, and this particular excerpt is from its 1850 edition. So we shall study the poem The Stolen Boat. The Stolen Boat deals with an incident in Wordsworth's childhood life, and that incident had taught him a lesson. And as Wordsworth, you all know, was a poet of nature, and this poem suggests us that what type of relationship he had with nature. And after reading this poem, we shall find that there was a strong relationship with nature of Wordsworth. The mood in the poem is varied and it is reminiscent and peaceful, and there is a sense of fear mingled with the feeling of guilt here. So let us go through the text before us. One summer evening, led by her is in parenthesis. One summer evening, led by her, I found a little boat tied to a willow tree within a rocky cove, its usual home. So Wordsworth recollects that when he was a child, and in one summer evening, led by her, here led by her, he personifies nature again here, because he considered nature as his guide. So he was led by nature, and I found a little boat tied to a willow tree, and he found a little boat tied to a willow tree, within a rocky cove. Within a rocky cove, an area, a sheltered bay was there, and there he found a little boat, a small vessel tied to a tree, and that rocky cove was that vessel's usual home. Straight I unloosed her chain, and here again there is use of personification. There is a personification of that boat, and he unloosed its chain, her chain, and stepping in, pushed from the shore. And as he stepped into that boat, and he pushed that boat from the shore in the waters, it was an act of stealth, and he confesses that it was an act of stealth. He had stolen that boat in this way. So poet is very much confessional here, and poet confessing this incident from his childhood. The poet was aware of his act of stealth, but his guilt was intermixed with the feeling of pleasure. Here we can see how his guilt was intermixed with pleasure. It was a troubled pleasure, and it was a troubled pleasure. Notice this phrase, troubled pleasure. Nor without the voice of mountain echoes did my boat move on. And here, in this troubled pleasure, his boat moved on, and there were echoes from the mountains, leaving behind her still on either side, and small circles glittering idly in the moon. And it was the time of evening, or rather night, and he left behind the place, and on either side small circles glittering idly in the moon, and he could visualize the moon glittering, and there were circles, small circles around the moon, until they melted all into one track of sparkling light. And as the time advanced and the night fell, and the moonbeams or the light from the moon grew more sparkling, and the circles fade away, and he was proceeding further in his boat. But now, like one who rose, proud of his skill, to reach a chosen point with an unswerving line, I fixed my view upon the summit of a craggy ridge, and as he was advancing in the river or in the sea, but now like one who rose, like that person who is rowing the boat, proud of his skill, and he was feeling very much proud of his skill, or skill of rowing, to reach a chosen point with an unswerving line, and he was advancing straight. Unswerving means straight. In a straight line, he was reaching towards his goal, towards his chosen point. I fixed my view upon the summit of a craggy ridge, and he had decided his goal, and that goal was a craggy ridge to which he had fixed his view, his eye, and he was proceeding towards that craggy ridge, that chosen point, that his goal, the horizon's utmost boundary. That craggy ridge was the horizon's utmost boundary. Far above was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. And he was all alone on that boat. And there were stars and grey sky were his mates. She was an elfin Finasi, and the boat was an elfin Pinas. An elfin is small and delicate. Elfin means small and delicate, and typically with a mischievous charm. Pinas means a small light vessel. So that was a small light vessel, and she was for him an elfin Pinas. Lustily I dipped my oars into the silent lake, and he lustily, this word is very important and suggestive of some sexual connotations. I dipped my oars into the silent lake, as though the silent lake, was his beloved, and he dipped his oars into that silent lake lustily, means in a great enthusiasm and great zeal. And as I rose upon the stroke, my boat went heaving through the water like a swan. And when he forcefully gave strokes to the rose, and the boat went heaving through the water, and the boat gathered its momentum, and it went a bit fast, heaving through the water like a swan. Like swan sails on the, or floats rather, floats on the surface of the water. The boat was floating or sailing on the surface of water, and it was heaving. So, when from behind that craggy steep till then the horizons bound a huge peak, black and huge. And when from behind the craggy steep till then the horizons bound a huge peak, and as he was advancing further, when from behind that craggy steep, and from behind that craggy steep he could visualize or see the horizons bound a huge peak, and he sees from afar a huge peak, a huge mountain which was black and huge. Huge, this word has been repeated again and again and is suggestive of the vastness of the biggerness of the mountain, as if with voluntary power instinct, and it seemed to him, and here again he personifies that mountain, and that mountain is not an object of nature, that is a living thing for him. Very high mountain was there, as if with voluntary power instinct, and it was with its power and instinct upreared its head, and it was raising its head, and he saw that vast or vast mountain, and he seems to have feared of this mountain. So the mountain for him was not a passive structure made of rocks or stone. It was like a living being, yet different from living beings. So we shall see, or rather we have seen, that poet is here describing one incident in his life when he was a child, and he is being here autobiographical and confessional as well, and the impact of that phrase troubled pleasure can be seen in this poem. He had pleasure in stealing that boat and rowing on that boat. At the same time, he acknowledged and realizes that he has done a thing wrong to one. The act of stealing is wrong. And here we can also see that he is having an effect of, he is having fears in the nature as well. The another aspect of nature is fear. He saw beauty in nature, at the same time he could perceive fear in nature. So we have come halfway in this poem, and we shall take the other half of the poem. For our convenience, we have divided it into two parts, and this contains 44 lines. Till then, you should read this part of the poem. We shall take another part in the next chapter and next video. Till then, thank you very much, students.